My aunt hijacked the retreat I paid for, packed it with drunk neighbors, then mocked my food in front of strangers. I paid the $51,000 invoice, rebooked the lodge under my name, and gave them 24 hours to get out. My aunt goes, "You can't do this," I said. I already did. The second I stepped out of the rental car, I knew I had made a mistake. My name is Claire Maddox. I'm 37 years old and I live in San Francisco, where I run a Michelin-starred restaurant called Larkspur. Coming back to this place, tiny, pine-choked Carlton Ridge, Oregon, was supposed to be a fresh start. A soft reset with the only blood family I had left, Aunt Denise and Uncle Ray. Instead, I was hit by the scent of damp firewood, old coffee, and something sweeter, nostalgia, maybe, or the kind of control that sticks to your ribs like bad gravy. It reminded me why I left. I had booked this place, the Lodge at East Hollow, for a private retreat. Rustic, but with a full gourmet kitchen I had personally helped design and fund. It was supposed to be just us. A chance to reconnect after years of polite texts and even politer silences. But the second I walked through the lodge doors, I realized my aunt and uncle had turned it into something else entirely. The place was packed. Laughter and clinking glasses echoed from the kitchen. Folding chairs had been dragged in from God knows where. People I didn't know, old neighbors, childhood friends of Ray's, and some man who looked like he'd mistaken the retreat for a fishing lodge, filled every corner. A toddler was crawling across the floor with a cracker stuck to her onesie. I stood at the threshold, suitcase still in hand, trying not to let my jaw fall open. "Claire," Denise's voice rang out. "There she is. Come say hi to the gang." The gang? I blinked, then forced a smile. Wow, this is more people than I expected. Uncle Ray emerged from behind the butcher block island, wearing a Carhartt apron over a flannel shirt. He raised his beer like a trophy. "Look who finally got tired of playing with foam food out there in La La Land," he bellowed. "You know, some of us still think food should taste like something, not like a damn art project." The room laughed. I didn't. I gripped my phone under the counter and typed out a quick message to the lodge manager. "Hey, the guest count is much higher than agreed. Can we talk?" Ray turned toward me again, still grinning. "I hope you're not too tired from all that fancy cooking. We've got real mouths to feed this week." I smiled back, tightly. Of course, wouldn't miss it. Inside, my stomach was twisting. This wasn't a retreat. It was a show. And I was the reluctant centerpiece. By the time I unpacked and changed into something less, airport, the kitchen had turned into a feeding frenzy. I walked in to find the countertops covered in grocery store snack trays, open bags of kettle chips, and at least 3 half-eaten store-bought pies. The gourmet fridge I'd custom-ordered was swinging open while some guy in camo shorts dug through it like he was looking for buried treasure. "Claire," Denise called from across the room, waving a plastic wine cup. "Come meet the rest of the crew." I gave a polite nod and joined the group near the long oak dining table. A few people I recognized vaguely, high school parents, maybe, and a lot of strangers who looked like they were here more for the beer than the bonding. "This is Claire, our little food genius," Denise said, clinking her wine cup against mine. "She owns that place in California with the plates that look like paintings?" "Larkspur," I said, smiling thinly. "It's in San Francisco." A burly guy in a faded Ducks hoodie squinted at me. "Is that the place that does those tiny meals with foam and flowers on them?" I nodded. He burst out laughing. "Man, I saw that on your Instagram. Looked like air on a plate." The group cracked up. Someone actually slapped the table. A woman with an armful of bracelets leaned in. "Do you ever make, like, real food? Like meatloaf? Or do y'all just sprinkle edible dust on a plate and charge $100? More laughter. I smiled, even though my jaw clenched so hard it felt wired shut. "Well," I said calmly, "we try to focus on flavor and technique, not portion size. It's not for everyone." Ray chimed in from the other end of the table. "Back when she was a kid, she used to waste all my flour making little dough dolls. Never thought she'd turn that mess into a business. She was always covered in flour," Denise added, shaking her head with exaggerated fondness. "Little chef in diapers." "That's not how I remember it," I muttered, mostly to myself. Then I saw it. One of the guests was uncorking a bottle of Domaine de la Romanée-Conti I had hand-carried from France. A wine I'd brought for a quiet evening with Denise and Ray. It was now being poured into mismatched solo cups and paired with lace. My hand tightened around my wine glass. I took a step back, pulled out my phone, and opened the retreat app again. The property listing, the guest capacity, the price bracket. I started typing a message to the host. This was not the agreement. "Please advise on next steps regarding occupancy and kitchen access." Back at the table, someone had pulled up my restaurant's Instagram feed and was scrolling through photos on their phone. I heard another voice snort. "Seriously? That's dinner? I've seen more food on communion plates." More laughter. I didn't say a word. I just took a sip of my wine, which tasted like nothing now, and I told myself, one more night, then I decide. The notification hit my phone right after breakfast. Invoice update from East Hollow Lodge, additional occupancy fees and damage waiver adjustments. Total due, $51,740. I stared at the number, my coffee cooling in my hand. I'd already paid just over 13 grand to reserve the entire lodge for the week, gourmet kitchen access, private chef option, premium wine storage, all of it tailored for a peaceful family retreat. Not this. I didn't even blink. I just clicked, pay now. Not because I wanted to. Not even because I could, though I could easily. But because I was done arguing. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about power. In the living room, Denise was laying out homemade bingo cards for some kind of afternoon mixer. "You're gonna love this one, Claire," she called. "We've got a prize basket and everything." Ray walked past behind her, rubbing his belly dramatically. "Hope the food's better today. Yesterday's art plate didn't even fill my left tooth." I didn't flinch. I walked into the kitchen, pulled out my phone, and calmly opened the property listing. I tapped Cancel Reservation and selected Owner-Occupied Rebooking. Yes, effective tomorrow, everyone here would have 24 hours to vacate. I wasn't making a scene, I was flipping the switch. Denise found me an hour later on the back deck, staring out at the tree line, sipping water from a crystal glass like it was wine. "There you are," she chirped, sliding the screen door shut behind her. "Ray's about to make a toast. Come in." I turned and smiled. My pulse was steady, my hands calm. I had grown used to heat and timing and precision under pressure. This was no different than firing a tin top on a slam Saturday night. "Of course," I said. Inside, Ray lifted a red Solo cup like it was gold. "To our little Claire Bear," he bellowed. "All grown up and cooking food with tweezers for rich folks." Laughter again. I raised my glass and smiled back. Tight, polite, silent, because this time they had no idea what was coming. It started with Denise's phone vibrating against the countertop, then Ray's, then 3 other guests' devices lit up in unison. I didn't say a word, just kept peeling the last of the blood oranges into perfect segments over the reclaimed wood cutting board, like I didn't hear the storm forming behind me. "Wait," someone mumbled. "Did the lodge just send an alert? What's going on?" Denise asked, staring at her phone. Ray squinted at his screen. "This has got to be some kind of mistake." But it wasn't. The retreat host had sent a mass update. For the primary guest's rebooking notice, the current reservation was void. A new reservation, under my name alone, was in effect as of noon the next day. The group was being asked to vacate the property within 24 hours. By the time I walked back into the living room, people were already arguing in hushed tones. "This doesn't make sense. Why would they kick us out in the middle of the week? Who's the new guest?" I didn't let them wonder for long. "It's me," I said calmly, stepping into the room. "I'm the new guest." Everyone turned. Denise's face went slack. "Claire." Ray's cheeks flushed. "You did this." "I reserved this place for a private retreat," I said. "Not a block party." Ray stood up slowly, cup still in hand. "You're kidding, right? This is some kind of joke." "Nope," I said. "The occupancy agreement was violated. This lodge has a maximum capacity. You all exceeded it without my knowledge or consent." Denise's voice trembled. "But you just paid the new invoice this morning." "I did," I said, "to buy my peace and keep the rebooking clean. This place is mine for the rest of the week." Gasps, murmurs, and then the real panic set in. A woman near the back glanced at her phone, horrified. "Wait, the hotels in town are booked. Everything's full. The food festival starts tomorrow." Another guy stood up, face flushed. "So what now? You're just kicking us out." I sipped my drink. "No one's forcing you to leave." They blinked. "But the stay's no longer covered," I added. "You're welcome to split the full cost among yourselves. I've already paid the new bill in full. Feel free to Venmo me. It's only about 38 grand. Shouldn't be a problem for such a well-fed crowd." Ray's face darkened. "You're serious?" "As cancer," I said. A man I didn't know pointed at me wide-eyed. "This is petty." I shrugged. "This is boundaries." Denise looked like someone had unplugged her from reality. "Claire, please. You said this was about reconnecting. About family." "I did," I said. "But I see now we remember this family very differently." She stepped toward me, tearful now. "You can't do this." "I already did." I placed my glass down gently. "And you have until noon tomorrow to pack." By the next morning, the retreat felt like the aftermath of a hurricane. People were dragging duffel bags down the stairs. Air mattresses were deflated and rolled up in a frenzy. Ray's cousin, a wiry guy with a ponytail and a Bluetooth earpiece, kept swearing into his phone about 0 cell service and no vacancy for 60 miles. I sat on the deck with a warm croissant and a hot mug of chicory coffee, watching the chaos unfold. Denise hovered near the garden, trying to coordinate carpools with visibly shaken friends. Her hair was still wet from the shower, strands stuck to her cheek. Ray paced beside the van, barking into the air. "If you told us this was coming, we could have planned." "That's the point," I murmured under my breath. A woman stormed past the porch steps, arms full of mismatched shoes. She looked up at me like I was a security guard at a prison yard. "Where are we even supposed to go?" she asked. "Everything in Carlton Ridge is booked solid for that dumb food festival." I shrugged and took another sip. "You didn't ask me before coming," I said, not unkindly. Ray's best friend, a barrel-chested man with mirrored sunglasses tucked into his shirt collar, stomped up next. "This is messed up, Claire. You gonna leave us out here stranded? What the hell are we supposed to do, sleep in our cars?" "You do what you want," I said. "But this space was mine. You weren't invited. You made assumptions. You think this is what success looks like," he snapped, spit flying. "Turning on your family? Treating people like garbage?" "No," I said, locking eyes with him. "This isn't what success looks like." I stood up slowly. This is what disrespect earns you. He didn't have a comeback, just stomped away, muttering under his breath. Denise finally approached, her voice small and shaking. Claire, honey, please. I didn't mean for it to get this out of hand. I just thought it'd be nice to show everyone how far you've come. You mean show me off, I said. She blinked, lips parting like she wanted to deny it, but she didn't. She just dropped her gaze and whispered, they're scared. They don't know where to go. I nodded. They'll figure it out. A moment passed. Then I turned and walked back inside. Behind me, the sounds of slammed trunks and heated GPS arguments filled the lodge grounds. Carlton Ridge had never seen anything like it, and neither had I. By 9 that night, the lodge was finally quiet. For the first time since I arrived, I could hear the wind through the pine trees. No drunk laughter, no passive-aggressive toasts, just peace. I curled up on the leather couch by the stone fireplace, a fleece blanket over my legs and a glass of wine in hand, not from a solo cup this time but from crystal, one of my own. I'd unboxed it just for tonight. The flames crackled gently as I scrolled through a few photos from earlier in the day. Not of people, just details. The shine of the copper pans I'd brought from San Francisco, the way the lodge kitchen looked when everything was finally back in place, the kind of beauty no one here had ever noticed. Until now, I guess. There was a knock on the front door, then another, louder, thudding. I didn't move. I already knew who it was. Outside, I saw them through the window, Denise and Ray, standing on the porch with their suitcases beside them. Denise had her arms wrapped around herself like the cold had caught her off guard. Ray banged on the door again, this time with his fist. Claire, he shouted. Open the damn door. Let's talk like grown-ups. I stayed seated. The knocking didn't stop. Denise's voice came next, shrill and desperate. Claire, please. It's freezing out here. We didn't bring jackets, we thought we were staying. Another round of pounding. You made your point, okay? Ray growled. So can we stop the power play now? I stood slowly and walked to the door, but I didn't unlock it. I just stood behind it, arms crossed, listening. Denise's voice softened. Honey, I know we messed up. I know we didn't think it through. But we're family. That should still mean something. Ray added. You think this makes you strong? Locking us out like we're criminals. I pressed my forehead to the wood. Then calmly, clearly I said, respect isn't optional. Not anymore. Silence followed. A long beat, then another. I waited. Denise's voice cracked. Claire, you can't mean that. I did, but I didn't say anything else. I just turned and walked back to the fire. I didn't even look out the window again. Eventually, the sound of dragging suitcases scraped across the porch planks. I heard them walking off into the night, swallowed by the dark gravel road and the cold Oregon air. I stayed by the fire until the last log burned down. Alone, but not lonely. There's a difference. 3 days after I got back to San Francisco, I was plating a citrus tart during prep when my general manager, Theo, stepped into the kitchen with his phone in hand and an expression I didn't like. Claire, he said carefully, you might want to sit down. I didn't. What's up? He hesitated, then turned the screen toward me. An email thread. Subject line, concerns regarding Claire Maddox's mental state. My blood ran cold. It's from your aunt, Theo said. She contacted 2 of our minority investors and said you've been showing signs of paranoia, emotional instability, and, quote, erratic judgment since the death of your mother. I stared at the words. Read them twice. They think you need a break, he added. She told them you canceled a family event and locked people out of a retreat you paid for. Said it was uncharacteristic behavior. I set the tart down gently, took off my gloves, walked to the back hallway, leaned against the stainless steel fridge and just breathed. She had really done it. I texted her. Claire, you crossed a line. Claire, don't ever contact anyone connected to my business again. Claire, you're permanently cut off. Seconds later, Ray replied from her number. Ray, don't be dramatic. You're not the first chef to burn out. We were just concerned. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. My fingers moved before I even thought twice. Claire, concern doesn't sound like backdoor sabotage. Claire, goodbye. Then I blocked them both. Email, phone, socials, everything. For the first time in my life, the silence that followed felt right, like space had finally cleared around me. No more walking on eggshells. No more late-night messages dripping with guilt. Just clean air and the kitchen hum of my own choosing. Theo found me 10 minutes later, arms crossed. I told them the investors have no say in your creative control, he said. They backed off. I nodded. Good. We didn't talk about it again. That night, I stayed late, working alone under the dim prep lights, folding croissant dough while the rest of the city slept. It felt steady, real, mine. They had tried to break something in me, but they'd forgotten I work with fire for a living. 6 months later, I wasn't in San Francisco anymore. I had sold my share of Larkspur to Theo and 2 senior chefs I trusted, packed up my apartment, and moved to a quiet street in Asheville, North Carolina, a town where no one knew my name, or what I used to be. I opened a bakery, small, quiet, clean. Just a handful of tables and a handwritten menu that changed every few days. No reservations, no Instagram influencers. Just regular people who liked good bread and hot coffee. I named it Marrow. Something deep, something necessary. The stress that had lived in my chest like a second lung finally dissolved. I slept more, laughed more. My food tasted better. Not prettier, not trendier, just better. No more all-nighters designing foam nests on edible bark. No more calling suppliers at 2 a.m. to demand microgreens flown in from somewhere that didn't have vowels in the name. Just sourdough and citrus peels and butter made the right way. I started journaling again. Nothing fancy, just loose thoughts. Scribbled margins. Lists of things I'd forgotten I loved. Lilacs, hot soup, real paper, waking up without an alarm. I walked home each night past a row of string lights strung across the town square. It felt like something out of a childhood I never got to have. No calls, no surprise drop-ins, no can you just, or I hate to ask, voicemails. Just peace. One night, I stood behind the counter after close apron still on, wiping down the last of the crumbs. The window was fogged from the warm air inside in the sudden October cold outside. I wrote something with my finger across the glass, just for myself. Still here. Not for them. Not for applause. Just for me. The email arrived on a Sunday morning, tucked between a bakery invoice and a local farmer's co-op newsletter. Subject line, I'm sorry. No exclamation point. No passive-aggressive smiley face. Just 2 words, plain and unfamiliar, like she was still trying to remember how to sound human. It was from Denise. I stared at the screen for a long time before I opened it. I wasn't sure what I expected, a veiled plea maybe, or another backhanded attempt at contact dressed up like concern. But this time it was different. There was no defense, no spin, just a quiet unraveling. Claire, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that we see it now. We made you a punchline when you were the one holding everything together. We thought we were honoring your success by showing you off, but what we really did was strip you of privacy, dignity, and choice. That's not pride. That's control. I can't speak for Ray anymore. I can barely speak for myself. But I'm sorry. Not because things got bad. I'm sorry because I let them. You deserved better. Denise. I read it twice, then once more slower. No ask. No strings, no manipulative emergency layered underneath, just truth, just too late. I closed my laptop and stood up, dusting flour off my jeans. The bakery smelled like orange zest and brown butter. Outside, the first customer of the day was already waiting in line with a scarf wrapped around her neck and a to-go mug in hand. I grabbed the fresh loaves from the oven, arranged them on the cooling rack, and opened the front door with a smile. The apology had come, and maybe years ago it would have changed something, but I wasn't the woman who needed it anymore. I didn't reply. Some things don't need an ending. They just need silence.